Thanks for tuning in to the 6Three podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Joel, with co-host Isaiah and Ben. It's the final football week of the season. It's been a crazy season. Despite COVID, there have been no cancellations. Lord willing, the Super Bowl is not the first. That'd be weird.
That would suck.
I think they're going to play it. They all have it. I don't care.
I don't think they do at this point.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah.
It would just suck if someone actually couldn't play.
Well, there was two for the Chiefs. Is like Demarcus Robinson and Daniel Kilgore both showed up on their COVID list, but they haven't tested positive for the rest of the week so far. So if they have another 2 days negative, then they'll be eligible to play again. That would stink to have COVID on the week of the Super Bowl, the biggest game that you want to play. You prepare your entire season for, and now it's there and you missed it.
that'd be terrible.
That's why you feel for Eric Fisher with the ACL injury.
Yeah, especially the week before, or 2 weeks, but the game before, it sucks.
Yeah.
So.
But we're going to talk first about Matthew Stafford. This might be the last time I wear this jersey. I'm not going to burn it. I'm not that kind of guy. But Matt Stafford got moved to the LA Rams for Jared Goff, this year's third, and 2 future first-round picks in 2022 and 2023.
Yeah.
So who won this trade? The Lions fleeced the Rams, or do you think that, or short-term, did the Rams win this game? Long-term, Lions win this trade? What happened here?
I think it's pretty even. I think a lot of whether Detroit fleeced the Rams is determined on Stafford's health for the next 3 or 4 years, and also what those future first round picks look like for the Lions. Obviously that depends on where the Rams kind of end up and whatnot, but if they're late, more towards the end of the first round as far as picks go, that kind of can tell you that the Rams may have even won the trade because they were better, right? I think short term, it's probably going to benefit the Rams obviously more. So you're going to definitely see some, we'll talk about it in a bit, but we'll see it benefit them quicker. Obviously, they're getting a franchise quarterback, upper echelon quarterback, probably a missing piece for their team right away, while the Lions are getting, some future pieces and a quarterback right now. And we'll talk about, what his place is here, in a quarterback that, has definitely been an okay starter and started a Super Bowl. So, unless the Lions, get some crazy level of production out of Goff, like right away, if they keep Goff, then I don't really see how it's necessarily a short-term, jolt in the arm for him. But at the same time, I think it was completely fair for them to be asking for that much. And I don't really fault the Rams necessarily for giving that much. I think it can be considered at the moment pretty even, and then we'll see down the road what it ends up being. So.
Yeah. I mean, when I first saw the results of the trade, but just what they got, I was pretty surprised that the Lions got that much. I shouldn't have been, because it seems like a lot of teams were calling the Lions about Stafford. It seemed like at least I don't know. I think I saw a report that 9 or 10, at least. So there must have been a little bit of a bidding war at least. So I got to assume that the Rams was the best offer that Stafford would approve. So far, it only came out that the Patriots were the only team he declined to trade to, which is kind of funny.
That's the middle finger to Patricia for sure.
Yeah,
100%
for sure. And but yeah, I was happy. Obviously, yeah, Ben, like you said, we'll know with the Rams if they had a good result from this trade next year. Mm-hmm. The way they played this year, especially on the defensive side, if they just get a better quarterback and more offensive production, that's you got to be thinking about them as an NFC Championship favorite, or at least to make it to the NFC Championship. But yeah, I mean, so I think that I think we'll know really soon with the Rams. If they don't make the NFC Championship next year, it's a loss in the trade column for them, in my mind. Make it one more round in the playoffs because you got a better quarterback. Yeah, that's my mindset. Obviously, you still will you get another defensive player of the year caliber season from Aaron Donald? Will you like get Leonard Floyd to play out of his mind better than he ever has? Like there's other things that have to fall into place, but they're definitely set up to be successful. But the Lions, I mean, it's going to take a while to see how they did because draft picks don't mean anything until the player is chosen.
Yeah.
I know some people were upset they didn't get a this year first. The Rams didn't have their this year first, so
They haven't since Jared Goff.
Well,
yeah. So that'll be the last first round pick till 2023. But I was saying, I think I was saying to you, Joel, like they picked 25 this year. The Rams would have.
Yeah.
If they're the like, I assume they'll be between 25 and 30 the next 2 years. That's not a massive difference in my mind. So like there's not much like between the 30th and the 25th pick. Like, are you really like splitting hairs over that? So it's going to be a hopefully starting caliber player for the Lions. They really need to like. It seems like they're totally into rebuilding through the draft. Like the GM and the coach both said that. So it's going to be hard to tell, but I'm excited for having, probably 2 early first rounds and 2 late first rounds. I mean, we've seen, we saw the Vikings do really well with that last year. We saw the Miami Dolphins do really well with that last year and hopefully this year. Like we've hopefully seen a lot of success from it. So with other teams, so hopefully the Lions do the same.
Yeah, so the Lions did get plenty of calls, and Albert Breer kind of posted some of them that they were really close with the Panthers also, and then the Rams made like a really late push. They said the Panthers offered the number 8 overall pick and then also a late pick. So that means the Lions would have had 7 and 8. So it's definitely tempting right there. You probably look at like opportunities. I mean, obviously Teddy Bridgewater's not included in that trade, but you look at opportunities for whether it's Justin Fields or Zach Wilson, but then also Micah Parsons to kind of shore up the defense a little bit better. So that was probably the second best trade that I saw. I also saw the Bears also were calling just an hour before that too.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounded like they were offering Nick Foles with 2 second-round picks. I was not. Jared Goff is a better quarterback than Nick Foles, and I don't think there's any disputing that. Colts, they never offered number 21, but they discussed other packages. Washington football team offered number 19 and a 3rd rounder. And then the 49ers never made an official offer, and the Jets checked in, but the talks didn't go very far.
Well, I think the way the Lions probably looked at it is, okay, they're considering Goff as equivalent to probably a late first-round pick right now, right? That's the way they're going to look at him, right? Because that's kind of what I would consider him as far as the way he's played, right? So if they didn't get a first-round pick this year, then okay, then they need to throw something else in there, like a player right now that's going to be a starter right now. Now, that's not to say the Lions might not turn around and flip Goff or, we'll figure that out. But, what it does tell me at least is, if they don't end up trading Goff now, it tells me that the Lions didn't feel comfortable enough taking an early round, an early first-round quarterback this year, or didn't feel like they were going to get the guy that they wanted if they did, or if they were going to try to. So they said, okay, if we're going to get rid of Stafford and you're not going to give us some absurd haul, right, then we need to make sure we get 2 first rounds, even if they're later. And we need to make sure we get, it's got to be a quarterback for a quarterback type of thing. Because they weren't going to go with who's already on the roster, and they weren't going to do a quarterback through the draft this year, which is fine with me. I think that kind of sees where their mindset is right now. And I think that's good. The mindset, like Isaiah said, like full rebuild. We're going to rebuild through the draft. They have all kinds of draft equity, if you want to put it that way now. And you can do a lot with that. You can trade it to get pieces that are already established. You can obviously stock it up and just go crazy young. I mean, you can do both. You can, they have a lot of options now that I think, it just makes things interesting. When before, even before this trade, they didn't have the kind of, ability to do different things. And it's cool to see. We'll see what happens. Kind of feels like draft day almost, where they can do a bunch of different things, and it might surprise some people. But we'll see. they've still got to pick well, obviously, and that's going to really determine what this trade ends up being. So
yeah, so a rebuild's not going to be done in 1 year. So obviously, getting 2 first-round picks in the future, like the rebuild by that 2023 season, that has to be a year where that first-round pick matters. Granted, that first-round pick is also still, all things projected, is going to be probably anywhere between 24 to 32. Like
right.
We expect these next several first-round picks to be 24 to 32. If Stafford's healthy, if there's no other crazy injuries.
Well,
with the Rams.
If you're the Lions, I mean, you're never hoping for bad health for Stafford, but you're hoping that somehow they tank or they suck and, they end up going 5-11. They end up being like the 49ers or something, where somebody gets hurt, they have a bunch of injuries and just problems and they lose a bunch of close games and they go 5-11, right? Or something crazy. That's what you're hoping for with the Lions.
Well, but one thing I've wanted from the Lions too lately is like, like they usually have like that. I don't know everywhere it's been in the past couple of years, but like they've been as high as 3, but like in that kind of like second tier almost of draft capital. Like they never get like the first 1 or 2 pick where it's like a generational stud talent. They've been kind of in that a little bit of no man's land. Like a top 5 pick's still really good, a top 10 pick's still really good, but there have been so many times where like there's these teams that pick later in the draft and get like a Justin Jefferson or like one of these running backs or like a kind of an explosive offensive player that because it's not super early in the draft, you're okay being a little flexible on. Like if a pick 30 doesn't work out to be your number 1 guy at that position, you're not losing your, except for, sorry for phrases, you're not losing your ass.
Yeah.
So use that like high end pick. So like a top 5 pick, I don't know what they're at this year, like 6 or 7. For like a guy that you need to assume is a sure thing and you want him to be your number 1 at that position. But you got some flexibility to go in on a Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I know they went with like, or think of a DeAndre Swift. You get a Justin Jefferson, like one of these guys who like maybe has some little bit of like concerns around him, but like you can be a little more flexible in those later first round places. Like it's not like, oh, if this guy doesn't turn out, me as the GM, I'm getting fired. Like that's how you feel with a Jeff Okudah. Top 3 pick, you're like, holy crap, dude, I need this to work out.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, that's kind of your ass. Like you can be a little interesting at the end of the draft, not maybe get your highest position of need, maybe not look for a day 1 starter. Like you can look for a guy to take a chance on. And yeah, you get a DK Metcalf who turns out a stud. You get like one of these later first round guys that like
you find a guy that fits your system like perfectly, right? So like an Edwards-Helaire, like he probably wouldn't be as good on a team other than the Kansas City Chiefs, but he fits what they do perfectly, right? So you can do that later but when you're early in the draft, like you're picking the best player. I mean, at a position of need, you're picking the best player, right? So, and maybe Okudah, I'm not saying it's just Okudah, whatever. He's just an example, but maybe he isn't like exactly what the Lions, fitting what the Lions wanted to do on defense. But he was the best corner, and they needed a corner, so they pick him at 3,
So I'm just going to list off 24 through 32 of this past draft, and it'd be so great to get one of these guys, but it's not a guy you would pick a top 10 pick on. So you got Cesar Ruiz, Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Love, which is kind of a weird one there, but Jordan Brooks for Seattle, Patrick Queen for Baltimore, Isaiah Wilson at Tennessee, Noah Igbenogany at Miami, Jeff Gladney, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, like these are some like really interesting names and picks that like, yeah, there isn't this massive amount of like weight on their shoulders or the GM shoulders to make it hit a home run there because
and Jordan Brooks and Patrick Queen were easily the best linebackers in the rookie class this year for sure.
Yep.
I think the other the fun point to this is like how in the world did like a pretty much a 33-year-old NFL quarterback with no playoff wins get such a hot market and Lions get such a solid return? It's like I think that's kind of the slap in the face to all the Stafford haters that say, he has no big wins. Like it's almost like QB wins is not a stat. It's not how you gauge talent from a quarterback.
It's a stat, but it doesn't mean anything necessarily about the quarterback without context, right? So like
the context is that the Lions have never had a top 15 run game and a top 15 defense at the same time.
Yeah, so if Patrick Mahomes, with all that talent around him, if they were going like 8-8 every year, yeah, you could probably say Patrick Mahomes sucks and it's his fault. But like, if you look at what the Lions have right here, it's not going to work. Like, it's obviously the one good team he had, whether it be defense and then with a decent run game. Stafford was 11-5.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
And they got gypped that year in the playoffs too with the pass interference.
Yes.
The reason I raised my hand is because I got something to say to one Rob Parker at Deadspin.
Rob Parker.
You guys saw this. I don't know if you guys saw this.
I did.
You wrote was it the Stat Padford thing?
Stat Pad. Rob Parker, you're never going to watch this podcast. So
I'm going to send it to him. Don't you worry.
Dude, I don't care if you tweet a minute. You're a buffoon, dude. Like, all this crap about, he's just got these empty, stupid statistics. Like, you've clearly never watched a game that the Lions have played. You've just looked at, Stafford had 400 yards and they lost. His yards don't translate to wins. Like, for a lot of bad teams, yes, the yards don't translate to wins. Like, Justin Herbert was not on a good team, and he broke the rookie record. And you don't look at him and be like, he just padded his stats because they threw it every down. Like, no, he had a great season, and he looks like a great prospect. Like, Matthew Stafford, I get it. He doesn't have as many wins. But, one, wins are a massive team thing. But, two, Matthew Stafford, they don't have I don't think the NFL really has, a wins over replacement stat that they track.
It's not like a war like baseball.
Yeah.
No.
The NBA also has a stat where it's if you put this player on a team, how many wins does he account for in a season? Matthew Stafford's is off the chart. Like, how many wins did the Lions have that season? That's how many wins that Stafford was accountable for that season. Because the only reason they've won games in the past 10 years, except for a couple years where they had a pretty good defense, it's been especially the past 3 years. Any game they won has been because of Matt Stafford.
Since 2002, since 2009 when Stafford started, or 2008, the year before Stafford started, the winning percentage for the Lions quarterbacks that aren't Matthew Stafford is 20% lower. It's significant. They have I think I saw it was a 298 winning percentage, while Stafford's is just under 500.
They did not win a game without Matthew Stafford last year.
Yeah.
Chase Daniel played 7 games, and they lost every single one.
Well, Jeff Driscoll and David Blau, yeah.
Jeff Driscoll, yeah. Sorry, Jeff Driscoll. Sorry, Chase Daniel. That was kind of a.
I think the other thing is this trade shows you how much defense and running game matters to a quarterback, because Goff was 42-20 and 6-5 in the playoffs in the last 4 years, and Stafford is 22-33-1 in the last 4 years and 0-0 in the playoffs. But LA has to give up a third this year and 2 future first-round picks and a quarterback. And the quarterback, granted, was probably more of a salary dump, but I think
the quarterback opened up their options for sure. So what I would expect them to do is, probably not a whole lot more this year, but they probably have some more options in the draft or in free agency and stuff now. So, it makes sense for both teams, really. I
think Anthony Lynn and Mark Brunell or something can maybe get the best out of Jared Goff yet.
Sure.
He's 26. He's got plenty of time. He's obviously a number 1 overall pick for a reason. That means high potential, high ceiling.
Won games too, and when you're around a winning culture, we just talk about quarterback wins not mattering, but there is something to it. When you're a consistent winner, there's something to that.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't really anticipate too much winning this next year, but we will see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Can I quick throw out there? I just want to throw a couple names out there. So in the past 3 years, drafted between 24 and 32. 3 years ago, we have names like David Njoku, T.J. Watt, Ryan Ramczyk, Reuben Foster. We have people like Lamar Jackson, Calvin Ridley, Marquise Brown. You have some incredible players there. Sorry, Montez Sweat, Josh Jacobs. Hey, you may say it's a late first-round pick, but the Lions got a really good deal out of it. I just wanted to throw some statistics behind what I said earlier.
Those are all names that the Lions passed on.
True.
That's a very pessimistic way to look at that.
I know. I'm purposely saying that. But I in my defense, Montez Sweat specifically, I had in my mock drafts that year, the Lions get Montez Sweat, and they didn't because, I mean, granted, I think in his combine something came up where he had like a potential heart defect.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of helped push him down a little bit. But
some, like legal problems, if I recall, he had some issues off the field, if I remember right.
I thought he just had like a heart murmur, but they've had other players they targeted. But let's go to the final part here with Stafford and then move towards obviously the QB of the current for the Lions, Jared Goff.
Mm-hmm.
Is he going to be a bridge quarterback for the 2 years and we're just going to run his salary? Are we going to try to move him, or is he like a long-term guy?
I mean, I would think that like the Lions are going to listen to offers for him. I think it'd be stupid of them not to. At the same time, I don't think they're necessarily going to actively, at least this first year, shop him. I think they feel good about what he can bring to the table for, a rebuilding team. And like you said, he's 26, so you might still have something to unlock there as the coaching staff and, a new coaching staff for him that might be doing him a lot of good. However, it'd be cool to see what you could get for him. And like, if you want to go full into this rebuild, I don't see why you wouldn't at least listen to offers for him, because it's like, look, if you already know you're not going to be any good and the team is willing to give you some later picks or maybe to shore up, even if they're able to give you like some 4th or 5th round picks or
and
something.
then it's still a salary dump again
And
from
it's
him.
still a salary dump again. I mean, you're going to have to – I mean, ideally you want as much flexibility as far as the cap goes as possible.
Going into a rebuild.
Once you hit that 2022, 2023 time, right? 2023 especially probably. You want as much space as you possibly can get. And I think that, obviously if they're able to dump that contract and get something for him, you're not going to expect Stafford level stuff for him, but he's, like you said, he's still a former first round pick. Ideally, if the line, if he were to play really well this upcoming year, and to just kind of show some teams, what he's got, and then maybe the Lions could dump him after this year and see what they can get for him at that point. That would be, in my opinion, ideally, because right now I don't think you're going to get a ton for him, and maybe it just makes more sense for him to be your quarterback for the year.
Well,
so
and you
in my
got,
opinion, I think he's a bridge. That would be what I would think.
and you got a lot of like potential uncertainty at quarterback still for a lot of teams around the league.
Yeah.
Drew Brees is. If he you got Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers all gone from their teams probably this offseason.
Yeah.
Tom Brady probably probably after next season, I would assume. I don't know.
He just talked about how he's probably going to consider playing past 45. So
he's a Greek god, so it's hard to say. But there's a lot of teams that like have a young guy that's still a question mark. I mean, Miami, Tua is still a question mark.
Yeah.
Josh or. Like if the Giants or the Jets don't stick with Matt or Sam Darnold, he's still a question mark. Yeah. Daniel Jones still a question mark. Drew Lock. Like there's these teams who still have question marks at QB.
Yeah.
Bears are going to try to roll with Trubisky next year. I mean, Carolina's going to try to roll with Teddy Bridgewater. Like there's a lot of teams that next year at the end of the season could be like, okay, we tried this again, or we tried something new and it did not work out.
Yeah.
And Jared Goff is going to look really nice to them. It might even be like a middle – depending on the quarterback class in the next couple of years, it could be a middle of the draft first-round pick if a team really needs that.
I agree. I think the Lions they're foolish and they're not at least listening to options, because Peter Schrager, he tweeted himself that there have been multiple teams that have made calls to the Rams in regards to Jared Goff, which means they're offering to take that salary, which means this wasn't just some throw-in, it seems like there was a market for Jared Goff.
Yeah.
Around the NFL, he's probably regarded still as like a top 20 quarterback talent-wise. He's 25, 26. He has multiple playoff wins. He's beaten Breeze and Russell Wilson in the postseason in their buildings. Yep. So, I mean, like, Goff is a good quarterback. And I know that – I also saw a tweet that was by Jeff Darlington that said, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes, they've already called and spoken to Jared Goff, and they're looking forward to him. So it's probably going to take another pretty good deal for them to just send off Jared Goff after they just traded with him to get him. But I think at the very least, these are going to be 2 years where he is either it's a tryout for whether he's a bridge quarterback or whether he's going to be a long-term quarterback, because he has long-term quarterback potential being this age, but it's a tryout 2 years, I think.
Yeah. If I'm the Lions, like, this is what they do. This is what these advanced scouting departments do too. They know what, if they're going to draft a quarterback in the next 2 or 3 years, they already know. They don't know who that will be, but they already know what the next few years quarterback classes are going to look like for the most part, right? There's obviously, add-ins and things move around or whatever, but they know who's coming through the college ranks, right? So if they have their eye on any of those guys already, then yeah, I mean, they're going to be – I'd be shopping Goff, like, actively, right? But I think, like I was saying, like, if you can get a really good year statistically out of Goff, that doesn't necessarily need to be wins, right? But if you can get just a solid year, good year of quarterbacking out of Goff next year, then I agree with Isaiah. Like, there's a lot of teams that are going to be sitting there going, yeah, we can take that contract down for a year and see what happens here. If, we feel like we're a solid quarterback away, right? We had a killer defense, or, we're just missing somebody who's just going to, be able to keep us in the game at quarterback. Our quarterback position is the reason why we're losing. There's going to be 5, 6, 7, maybe more teams looking at that. And I think Jared Goff is going to look good to those teams. And the Lions can probably get more than they could this offseason if they're just going to dump him after getting him already. So, yeah. I don't know. That takes a lot, because then you're asking Goff to have a good year, because if he just goes out there and is just terrible, or is hurt or something, something dumb, then, the market probably disappears pretty quickly. So,
yeah.
Luckily the Lions are still bad, so you can, if our GM's good enough, he can maybe kind of say, hey man, he's still good. Our team just sucks.
Well, that's what I'm saying. He doesn't necessarily need to light the world on fire, but he just needs to show that he's a top half, maybe top 20 NFL quarterback still. And then I think most teams who are in desperate need of a better quarterback player would be like, yeah, I mean, we can take that. So I don't know.
Yeah. I think one final funny point is, I bet you Matthew Stafford's overall rating in Madden 22 is going to go up to like 91.
Yeah, when it was
for the Rams.
3.
He's an 80 this year for the Lions, and I bet he's going to go.
He's going to be 85 plus for sure.
At least.
Yeah.
So stupid. Whatever.